Okay, I want to talk about a no heat condition. So if you have a Wrangler, Wranglers, they work really well. The heat on a Wrangler, when it's working properly, should be really, really hot. And when we use this Wrangler in the winter, it heats up fast and it also provides great heat. So when that stops working, it's really obvious. And the number one cause on ours, and I'm sure it's pretty much the number one cause on everyone's, is there's a servo in the heat blend door. So the way the heat works on this, and pretty much most cars and trucks, is that there's a blend door for the heat and the cool air. And within that plenum, underneath the dash, all that servo does is it moves either up or down or left or right to either let the heat in or to let in to block the heat and let the cold air in when the AC is on. And the heat's just coming from the heater core. The heater core is like a small radiator that sits behind the engine, behind the firewall. And all that does is it circulates, it has coolant circulating through it. So your engine coolant will have two hoses, a supply and a return on the Wrangler. And this is kind of true of all heater cores, the way they work. There's a supply line and a return line. And as long as the heater core is getting the hot fluid, the hot coolant, the heat should be just fine. If you're getting hot coolant and you have no heat in your cabin, that's because the blend door is not working or is stuck, right? So there's a servo on these. The servo goes, it's really common, and then you have no heat, because the reason why you have no heat is because the servo mechanism defaults to cold position. So when the servo stops working, it'll be broken, it'll default to cold only, and therefore you get no heat, right? When it calls for heat, it's not working, so it's not gonna change that position of that default cool position on the blend door. So the way you troubleshoot that, it's super easy. You wanna start the Jeep, let it run for about 5-10 minutes, and then just touch the supply and the return line with your fingers. There'll be these two aluminum lines right here. You can pull this up if you wanted to. You can pull it out of the way, and you could, make sure it's safer for you. But you want to touch those lines. If both those lines are about the same temperature and they're hot, then everything in the engine compartment is working just fine. It's not the thermostat. It's not the water pump. It's not low coolant. That you can basically rule out the engine compartment from the equation. And you want to move into the cab and into the cabin area, and you want to test your servo for the heat blend door, right? There's a ton of videos out there on how to test that. I'm not going to cover that here, but that's a simple high level. Yeah, you have no heat. You've got a hot supply and return line on the heater core, so you know the engine compartment is fine. There's nothing in there that's not working properly from a heat perspective. You want to move into the cab area, and then you're going to go right to that blend servo for the blend door. That will probably be your problem. And again, there's a ton of videos out there on YouTube or online, and you can find out how to change that. I want to say it's about $50. Get the Mopar. Definitely get the Mopar factory door. If you can't, you can get an aftermarket one. I want to say Dorman makes a good quality blend servo. So that's pretty much 99% of the issues when there's no heat on the Wrangler, and that should fix it for you. So hopefully this is helpful. If you have any questions at all about diagnosing it or troubleshooting the servo itself, just reach out on my channel.